What's up, guys? It's Sam from EDMProd, and today I've got a bit of a different video for you. So someone in the EDMProd Facebook group asked if I could do an analysis of one of my tracks called Dolomite. Now, at first I didn't really want to do this because I don't like promoting myself through EDMProd as an artist. Its purpose is to teach music production. But then it sort of made sense, this is a good way to teach production, sort of a practical hands-on approach. So I thought I'd do it. So in this video, we're going to look through one of my tracks called Dolomite. And you can listen to the full track before watching this if you click the SoundCloud link in the description. The other thing to note is that you can buy this project file if you want. You don't need to, of course. You can still get a lot out of this video. But if you want to dig deeper into the project in your own time, look at the elements, even use a few elements in your own music, you can do that by purchasing the project file. It's $20. Not too much, but by doing that, you help keep EDMProd going. But yeah, other than that, we're going to get into it. Now, I'm pretty much going to wing it in this video. I've never done this before, but I think what we're going to do is start with the arrangement and then look at each sort of individual element. But the first thing to note is that this track is very simple, surprisingly simple. There are only 32 tracks in it and very few layers. But arrangement, this song started with an 8-bar loop. Most of my tracks do. And at first it was very simple. It was sort of just a pluck, a few soft drums, and a few other things. And I built on it and then fleshed out a basic arrangement, which is pretty straightforward as far as things go. 32 bar intro, very short break here, 8 bars. Then it sort of leaps into the first meaty section, builds, and then we have this long sort of breakdown here. And that carries on for a bit. And then we've got the full, 32 bar chorus. And then it leads into the outro, which is 32 bars. So pretty straightforward as far as arrangement goes, but it still sounds interesting. Okay, so we'll have a look at the drums. This is how the loop sounds. Pretty straightforward. So let's have a look at it. Got a kick, of course. The kick is actually kind of a different kick that I normally use. I like the punchy, sort of snappy, clean kicks, but this one's a bit different. It's more of like an electro kick or a dubstep kick, but it works well in this song. Then we've got a few bits of percussion. Got this sound here. Ton of reverb on it. In fact, the reverb's just been used on the instrument. So this is an Ableton native sound. And it's one thing to note, a lot of people kind of neglect the instruments or effects that their DAW contains. You shouldn't do that. There's some great sounds in there that you're missing out on. So have a look through them before, you trawl through your sample packs looking for something else. This is just a short kind of shaker sound. In fact, it's more of a hat. I've got another Ableton instrument here, and this is a shaker. So it's actually two shakers playing with this pattern. Pretty straightforward. And you'll notice there is swing on here. Got the 16C swing, very popular. A few hats. Again, nothing extraordinary. This hat here plays the last sort of 3 off beats of the last bar. Oops. So And that kind of adds a bit to the groove, you know, it leads nicely into the next 4 bars. The clap, there are 3 layers of claps. Sorry, 2 layers of claps. Technically 3, but I'll get to that. So, first clap's really simple. It is a clap. The second one is a snare and a clap layered together. So that really gives it the drive. And the third layer comes from this loop down here. So if I solo this, you'll hear that there's a bit of a snare sound in there. So together, you get this really solid kind of sound. And there's also a sort of reverb clap here that just adds a bit of tension. If you've watched my drum programming video, you remember that I talked about the 2-4-8 method. Now, I haven't got an 8 here, but I have got something that happens every 2 bars, which is this reverse clap, which is literally just white noise and massive, because I'm lazy and I don't want to actually reverse a clap. And something that happens every 4 bars, which is that little reverb clap there, as well as that hi-hat. So that's that. That's the drum section. Pretty straightforward, like I said. Nothing out of the ordinary, but it sounds good as a whole. Cool. What else happens in the intro? So we've got this kind of flute sound here, which is, again, another Ableton instrument. I've used a lot of them in this track. So this one's called Brushed Bell Hits Bells, maybe something else, I don't know. Maybe I renamed it, but it sounds like this. Super simple. But it adds kind of a tropical feel. Got a few effects going on as well to keep things interesting. Really like the sound. I don't know exactly where it's from, but it's really nice. It's got ping pong delay and reverb on it, as well as sidechain. We've got a reverse version of it, crash cymbal, same one, non-reverse, and also this vocal loop from the Sunny Lax Studio Essentials pack, which is kind of the background element. You don't really notice it at first, and also some vocal chops from the same pack with a bit of redux on it, ping pong delay and reverb. So that's the intro. That's pretty much all that happens. The other thing is, leading into this breakdown, there's a reverse reverb tail. So there's the main lead here, which is a pluck sound. But this tail here leads into it nicely. Now, the next thing to look at is the bass. So the main bass line is very simple. There are a few layers to it, but it's really just following the same pattern as the root note of these chords. So the first layer featured in the breakdown is this one here, and the sub layer. When you play them with the pluck, it sounds a lot more warm and rich. Now when we move over here, a few more layers are added in. So the first one is this grit layer, which is just a saw bass really, with a ton of reverb on it. So we get this. The second layer is just a pluck bass, and this is actually playing a different note, I think, to the normal bass line, and it kind of sounds a little bit off, but I reckon it makes it sound funky. We've got another layer for the main bass, and again, by itself, it doesn't sound that appealing, but it works. And yet another layer with a bit more of an attack to it. So the main bass here together sounds like this. So it's nothing, crazy. But we play it with the pluck and the drums. Pretty cool. And there's a bit of automation going on here. So most of the automation happens with the main pluck to add tension. So if we have a look here at this first breakdown, have a listen actually. Now, I like what happened here. So this, when it leads into the main section, the first kick isn't there. There's a kick here. And then normally there'd be a kick on the first downbeat, but there isn't. So I'll play that in full for you. So coupled with the automation here, it kind of adds a cool effect. So that carries on for a bit, about 8 bars, and then we have this new element introduced. And this here, I don't know how I came up with it, but it's super straightforward, but it sounds awesome. So it's this very simple melody. It's mostly just 2 notes, if you have a look at this. But adds a world of difference. But the transition effect here is quite interesting. So this was kind of a happy mistake. And it's something I've never done before, but basically what happened is I moved the cutoff up on the reverb. I got confused because I thought I was using an external reverb, but if you can see that. So both the cutoff and the dry wet on the reverb are moving up. And it gives us cool sort of, I don't know, it's hard to explain. And the reason it sounds so good is because there's pretty much nothing else going on. You know, I've taken out all the percussion for that first beat, other than the pluck. And yeah, it sounds really good. So that's, if you want to add tension to your track and bring in new instruments nicely, consider doing something like that where you have a nice transition effect and sort of take everything else out. The only other thing on that is the pitch bend. So as you can see, there's a long note here, and that has pitch bend applied to it, I believe. And that gives a cool sort of summer sound to it, I suppose. That pretty much repeats itself, not much changing. The cutoff is moving up on the main pluck, sorry. So coming up to bar 65, I when I was making the track, I got about that far and I was kind of stuck. I didn't know where to take it. Was I going to have, excuse me, was I going to have a breakdown that featured something musically different? Maybe some piano, some pads. What was I going to do? And I was pretty stuck. I had another section that I made, which ended up sounding completely different. It was like kind of a disco thing, and it sounded good by itself, but in the flow of the track, it just didn't work. So I got here and I was stuck. Sort of left it for a few days, came back, and really all I did was just play around. I took this main pluck here and started adding a few notes above it, as you can see here. So I'm going to play this for you so you can see how it sounds. So it's really simple. If I just consolidate this, see what I mean. There we go. So we start off with this lead in, which is the bar before. This sort of simple scale, what do you call it? Trill or fill or whatever. And what makes this sound sort of interesting is that these melody notes don't play with the chords. So normally with plucks and melodies, you'll have them play the same notes or the same rhythm as the chords. So like that. But these play not always, but outside the chords, which makes it sound more complex. And it follows a pretty basic rhythm. So we've got these, and then there's always a little fill here, normally just 3 notes. Again, the same here. That just repeats itself. And then it kind of changes, it goes up, and then repeats again. So that's pretty cool. Oops, where am I? So as a whole, leading into the breakdown, it sounds like this. Again, just that automation, pulling it down, just to lower the energy again. And this part here, this 8 bars here, is essentially acting as a build-up. I haven't got any big snare rolls or massive rises going on. It's very subtle. Now, one thing that happens here, which gives sort of a cool effect, is I've taken out the first main chord in this progression. So normally there'll be a chord here, as you can see, on the downbeat. But in the chorus, I've taken that out for the start, so we get this sort of dragging effect. So you can see that the progression here, or the sequence here, is much different to this one. A lot of the downbeats are taken out, basically. That's kind of cool. And also the cutoff filter is open completely. Apart from the last little bit here where there's one note. So, and the reason I did that is because I liked the sharp sound of the filter being closed. Now, I wasn't too sure about having the cutoff filter open. I think it worked in the end. Some people gave feedback on it and said they didn't like it open. I think Nigel Good offered some feedback and said that it would have been cooler to hear it closed and another element coming in to keep the energy up, but the filter closed. But anyway, that's that's how it is for now. And again, I kind of wanted to introduce this little melody again, which was a bit of a challenge because it didn't really work with the open cutoff filter. So I did have to bring the energy down. So what I did is after this first 8 bars, I had a quick little break. Took the kick out, some of the percussion, pulled down the cutoff filter, and you'll see here that those above, or the melody notes above the chords aren't there. Everything comes back in, and then in this last part here, we have the cutoff very low on the pluck, and this playing together. So I suppose it kind of does work, but in this little breakdown, I thought it was a good idea to pull out those notes just to add a bit of contrast and tension. And after that, the track pretty much ends. We go into this outro, which is pretty straightforward, and that's about it. So I wonder if there's anything else to cover. I mean, we looked at the pluck. Yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. Again, if you want to have a look at this project file yourself, you can purchase it. It's $20 US. Obviously, you need Ableton, Massive. I've used Massive, and I'll list all this stuff I've used, but I think it's just Ableton and Massive and Spire for the most part, and all the samples will be included. Other than that, if you have any questions, if you want to see this kind of thing done again, let me know. Like I said, I don't really want to promote myself, but if people find it helpful, then I'm happy to do it. So yeah, have fun producing. Peace.